So to summarize all of that, then, Agile might be wanting to become fitter. Scrum is about following a specific program that's going to help you get there.
Exactly right.
Simon, you've been wandering around charity shops, I understand.
I have. I've just got to chuck a stat in before I get to that point, though, because
Yeah.
perhaps no, no, you'll like this one. This is relevant, and it kind of really demonstrates why businesses do need to be agile. In the 1960s, the average life cycle of a company was 67 years. I looked up a stat. Today, the average life cycle of a company is 15 years, so it says. So all that about having a sprint changing quicker has obviously got to happen a lot quicker because companies are changing significantly quicker. But yes, Martin, I've been busy charity book shopping or charity shopping. I've got a book here called The Age of Agile by Stephen Denning. And actually, I'm lucky enough to have purchased a signed copy.
Do you want to hold it
My
up in
knowledge
front
of
of
it.
your check shirt and we'll be able to see
Ah,
it?
there we go. Age of Agile.
The
There
Age
we
of
are.
Agile by Stephen Denning. Brilliant.
Denny, yeah. Um, and it caught my eye because I immediately thought of Richard because, as you described him quite rightly, he's the agile nerd. Sort of three bits he really focuses on that kicks off. One is the law of the small team, and it's just quite logical, really. I mean, we've big organisations are ultimately made up of smaller teams, so small teams that are empowered have more autonomy are generally going to be uh, better at reacting at speed to things that either happen internally and externally. So you don't underestimate the power of creating some small teams that can respond at speed. Um, his second chapter is called The Law of the Customer, which is sort of very on my radar at the moment. And it talks about customer value sitting at the center of everything and to quote, not bureaucracy. Now, customer value, for me, this is an area where there could be some disagreement because if you're the business, your version of what you give might not be the same as the version the customer thinks they're getting. So that's a huge area on its own, but interesting as I'd never seen this book before that it's highlighted there. And lastly of the three, again another sort of perhaps potential favourite, the law of the network. Organizations work best when as connected networks rather than less rigid hierarchy. Now, obviously, we've said this before, someone's got to be in control, someone's got to take responsibility and ownership for decision making and for people, but flatter, uh, more authority not necessarily being for a task, not necessarily being given to the person who's charge of the area, for example, but more so being allocated to the best person to deliver the job. So a different way of thinking there. And there's a nice quote from the book. He says, as we've already said, agile is not a process change, it's a cultural change. So it comes back to my
Yeah.
cultural comment a little bit earlier. And I, again, I think we'll come on to this a little bit more. If you're trying to make a cultural change, firstly, you need to recognize you've got to make a cultural change, number one. But secondly, you've actually got to physically demonstrate the behaviors that you want to see. Yeah, we can talk about agile, we can talk about culture, we can talk about all these various bits. But when it's boots on the ground, you as a leader have got to set your stall out and say, follow me. Um,
Yeah,
really stuff.
I couldn't agree more on that, Simon, because what's the role of the leader? Role of the leader is, particularly with regard to the culture, is to role model the ideas and behaviors effectively that are going to underpin the development of the business. And that sort of builds a culture. And I think the whole idea of sort of curiosity and continuous learning really, really feeds into that idea of changing culture.